Okay. Hi, Megan. There you are. We're
Hi,
recording.
Judy. Thanks for
Okay, so
having me.
I'm Jackie. I own Lifted Salon in Folsom, California, which is part of Sacramento, NorCal. And I specialize in hair color and hand-tied extensions. And we are here to talk about hourly, being a session artist and charging for your time by the hour rather than a la carte. And this is Megan. So go ahead,
Hi,
Megan.
my name is Megan. I own Wash Salon in Oregon, Illinois, and I specialize in color and in hair extensions. I am certified in 4 different methods. So I also do hand-tied, but I do tape-in, beaded, and fusion methods as well. And so far, fusion is my favorite, but I'm really liking this whole hand-tied situation. And color corrections, I love those. But right now, we're talking about hourly. So, Jackie, what do you want to start with?
Yeah, it's funny you say color corrections because I believe almost everything is a color correction now.
Yeah.
And it used to be standard to charge hourly for color corrections because there's so many things you have to do. But now, with so many techniques we combine together, and everyone is so unique that hourly has become such a more free way of charging for your time, and it's less complicated. So, why I do hourly, to be completely honest, is because I lack boundaries. I lack strong boundaries. I also am a stylist that I tend to sometimes overthink things, overcomplicate things, and with a large menu, it just added to the chaos, kind of like having, a messy environment that you're trying to work in. It just, it was just complicated, and also taking away gender specific pricing, things like that. So that's why I was really attracted to it. The other part of why is because I struggle as an artist to upservice or to tell my client that they may need a treatment or a toner, or when it comes to extensions, we might need to treat the extensions. And I have a harder time when it comes to talking about that, charging for that a la carte, when I just want to be able to do it and offer the best that I can do. And we don't need to talk about every single detail and why they need it and have that conversation of selling something. So that is why hourly for me was a very easy transition. It was a no-brainer for me when I discovered that I had permission to do it. I guess I had this thought that like you have to be someone like, I don't know, Larissa Love to do that. I thought it was like, but really I just was like, oh, I can do this. Anyone can do this. And your rates are different at every level. So that's why I really, really had to get into hourly, to keep me on track, to give me freedom as an artist, and to keep me accountable for charging my worth. Because I just slip stuff in because I just wanted to do it. And my client, might have not wanted to spend the extra cash on it when I felt it was really important for the results. Cause I think a lot of us can speak to like really, really caring sometimes more than our clients about their own hair.
Absolutely. Not everyone places as much value on their hair as we do. So my why is simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
Going on the a la carte, now you've got your hands full with remembering, okay, we did a highlight, but then we also did a gloss, and she really needs a treatment. And we're also going to do a haircut. And after we blow dry, we're also going to add some iron curls. And oh my God, I forgot to charge for her wax. And it just, and your client sees that bill ticking higher and higher, and then they might cut out on something that their hair really needs. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden they're skipping that treatment because they just didn't have that extra $10, $20, but their hair is going to suffer for it. And I had a recent color correction experience where in the moment, and that this has happened several times, but especially this one, in the moment, I'm like, yes, this is why hourly is so great, because I had in my head already, you've got your appointment scheduled and you think ahead of time what you're going to be doing and you know their hair. So you've got an idea and you can kind of formulate. But then when we got to talking in our in-person consultation, I'm like, hang on a minute. I need to do something completely different. I need to start at this point A instead. And if I hadn't been charging hourly, it would have been a whole different ball game. My timing would have been off. The ticket price probably could have added up real quickly, and they freak out. But because I was at hourly, we were able to achieve our goals without having to tally up and charge for each step, and it was such a relief.
Oh, like I said, like just like it's like a Maria Kondo of your menu. Like just
Yeah,
declutter. It's
and
great.
it helps your client be able to budget. So
Yeah.
as soon as you have your consultation, you know what they want. In your mind, you can think of whatever steps it's going to take you. You know how long it takes you to do each of those steps. So you can say, okay, here's your hair now. Here's where you want to be. It's going to take me 3 hours to get you there. Your price is. And then they know right away when they schedule the appointment, they know exactly what they're going to spend. And if you quote them for 3 hours, whatever your rate may be, and they're like, okay, 3 hours is maybe not in my budget. Well, hey, what is your budget? What can we work with? Tell me your budget. And then when they shoot you back what their budget is, that allows you to say, okay, for if their budget was 2 hours, for in 2 hours, here's what I can give you. It's not going to be the dream inspo photo you showed me, but we could do this, or we can take our steps to get to the dream photo. So that helps too. I feel like this way, clear is kind. They know their budget right away.
Yeah, I am actually in the middle of like I'm doing a virtual consultation with a new guest right now who has a 3.5 hour, I'm like, this can take about 3.5 hours to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like reeling back. And I'm like, listen, we can take this on a journey and it
Yes,
doesn't have to be in one whole session, but we can definitely like,
work you there.
journey there because she's got, in California, a lot of stylists, we've only worked maybe a month or two out of the year. So a lot of people like everything
Yeah.
is taking longer. And they're like, hair is grown to here. And, she's like, so I'm like, to get you back on track, but there's so much we can do. And I do have that conversation a lot where people are like, oh, I don't know what to book for. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what to book. I don't know how long my hair takes. So I'd be interested what your response is to that. But I always go, listen, like I can do so much like color. I can make your hair look better in an hour. I can make it look better in 2 hours. I can make it look better in
Mm-hmm.
3. Basically, the larger the change, the larger the amount of time.
Yes.
But no matter what, even if you only have an hour to hour and a half, either time budget or money budget, then there's a lot we can do within that time, whether it's like, and I love that I can do a toner with a haircut and like gloss their hair or do a
Absolutely.
really targeted treatment because I know their hair needs it. And so when we talk about, I had someone call the salon yesterday and it's like, I just want a haircut. And, what is this session pricing thing? I just want a
Yeah.
haircut. That's it. Just, I want to go in, cut my hair and leave. And I'm like, that's not this salon. We do experience sessions. So it's more like, a treatment and a shampoo and a blowout. And, we really care for your hair and give you some good quality time. It's not just a haircut. And
Not
so I almost get a little bit like, you should really care more.
Well,
Like, what do you mean you
again,
want just a haircut?
there's a salon and there's a stylist for everyone.
Yeah.
So we do the same. If somebody calls and says that they just want a haircut, we explain that here at Wash, we are offering an experience. It's never just a haircut. It's never just highlights. We're offering an all-inclusive experience. And by the way, hourly pricing includes gratuity. So we got rid of tipping on the side. We're charging our worth. So it's really leveling up yourself as a stylist and the salon environment that you're in. And we're kind of I've seen a little bit of what you're mentioning with people don't know how long to book, but I've also seen the other side of people know that they're here for 2 hours, but they don't know if they get a balayage or a highlight.
Yeah.
So and they can go online and be like, I don't know what in the heck I would book for if I had all these options. Oh, I see they have 2 hours. I'm there for 2 hours. That's what I book. And for those clients who are still not quite sure, we have set up our online booking to have descriptions that help with that. And each stylist has their own price point. So there's a stylist for everyone's budget, and each stylist takes a little bit different with their timing, which is just fine. And so we have it customized for each stylist. Like, okay, 2 hours with this stylist gets you a root touch-up, a gloss, a treatment, a haircut. If you are looking for highlights or balayage, then you'll need 3 hours. And like what you were talking about, Jackie, the more of a transition you're wanting with your hair, the more of a time frame you're going to need.
I know. Like, let's talk what's your hair session? I love the fashion shades, but I don't do them really, but I always am curious, like how long is your hair session?
Let's see. I guess it depends on if we're like going all in or refreshing. So to start with, I'm roughly a level 6. And my hair grows like a weed. And so I have a good inch. I've got good lighting here. I'm going to reveal that I have a good inch of outgrowth going on right now. And so if I were to refresh what's going on right now, which of course is never my plan, I'm going to change it. But if I were to refresh, I would need to have time scheduled out to do an on scalp lightener retouch, because this all is going to have to lighten up to at least 7 or 8 in order to be able to give me my orange. And so the orange is going to need to be refreshed, because this used to be like see you from a mile away orange. And then this is 2 different shades of green that were then balayaged in there. So it's like retouch this, then pull the orange through. Depending on your timing, you can get the green in and have it all processed at the same time, but I'm going to give it at least 3 hours.
Yep. Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that is a good chunk. And I think, and I started doing hair 20 years ago.
Me too.
And back then I feel like all colors was like 2.5 hours.
Yes.
We had to do everything in 2 to 2.5 hours. Yes. And I've actually had to retrain my brain out of that.
Yeah.
No, things are taking, 2.5 to 3.5 hours for the looks we're looking. However, one very important point is that we're not doing touch-ups every 6 weeks anymore. Like we used to, and everyone had like broken hairs around here. Remember when Kelly Clarkson had red, black, and white hair? But anyway, so now it's not every 6 weeks like we used to do. It is like it could be 8, 12, 16 once a year. Like it's totally up to them, because everything grows out so soft. I highlight my hair. I'm on the opposite end of you. I'm short, so my haircut is high maintenance, but my color, I highlight maybe twice a year. Maybe.
Right.
Maybe. And I gloss, because I don't do permanent hair color on my scalp or anything, so I just put glosses on and that's it.
Absolutely.
So I'm a very low maintenance person, because I don't like to sit still, and I don't like to spend a ton of time on my hair. I want to be able to so I have that like scheduled out for myself, but I do have varying maintenance guests who have all varying time frames, and it's really wonderful. So I love that I can keep I keep my boundaries automatically. It's just set there. It's so straightforward. I'm cognizant of my timing. I tend to get lost in hairland a lot, but I've started putting a timer out.
Okay.
I think you gave me that advice actually for my rows, but I started putting like a timer out just to say, because I have ADHD really bad, and I hyper focus seriously bad sometimes. And so I will just be like, oh, oops. But that's on me, too. I don't put that on my client if I wasn't being focused to keep myself, like I added way too many highlight packets and didn't account for, whatever. So
It
that's
really
usually,
does help hold you accountable. You need to know in your mind, okay, it takes me X amount of time to put on a root touch up. It takes me X amount of time to foil a full head of hair. Okay, now I know that I'm gonna, let's say I know it's gonna take me an hour and a half for that process. Plus I need to factor on the time that we need to gloss, we need to do a haircut, we need to at least blow dry.
yeah.
So possibly it's gonna take you 3 hours for all of that. And you need to be able to keep an eye on the time.
Yep.
And think, okay, am I on task?
Yes.
Do I have my root applied on time? Do not get lost in the foils. Like just keep on trucking, map it out and know exactly where to put those foils.
Exactly. I work backwards in my head. So I'll be like, okay, we have 3 hours. That means the last hour is shampoo, treatment, blowout, cut. So that means I have 2 hours to color, which means I have maybe like a little over an hour to apply, process, and like give myself a little window to really tone, root smudge, all of those things, because that is at least 20 minutes plus the processing time, all of those different things. I do a lot of dimensional color, so I think in highlights. But when it comes to a root touch, that's super straightforward. Those are great. So those are really relaxing for me. But what's really, really cool with even a root touch though, is I'll be covering my clients gray and I can be like, can I pop a little balayage in that bang? Like, can we do that? And there's no thought of like, that's an upcharge. Like I just get to do that.
It's
and
included.
I get like a free range artistries, but every single root touch gets a glossing treatment on the ends. And it just gives it that much more of a wow, where before I didn't have the conversation. But that is something, like, I think when we get into the how of this, like we have to understand that you're also pricing for being inclusive. So, I am hiring new people. And so they're just now learning how to kind of price themselves and figure that out. And we can share a little bit on the how. We're part of Destroy the Hairdresser. So we get coached through this, and it takes a lot more time than just a short conversation we're going to have, but we can have like a very like kind of umbrella statement, and you coach your stylist through this, I coach my stylist through this, we got coached through this. So sometimes it takes a little bit more of a mindset shift as well. But
absolutely.
But how I did it a little differently than you did. But how did you just
so
summarize?
For anyone thinking about this, like some people are like fast adapters and some are slow, and that's fine. And I feel like in the span of timing for me changing this, I was maybe on the quicker end, but in my mind, I feel like it was slow because it was a year ago, right about now, that I first had even heard about hourly pricing. And I'm like, what is that? How does that work? But it had planted the seed. And by December, I was figuring out like, okay, we're going to transition to this price increase. And then we were closed for 3 months here in Illinois. And then when we came back from quarantine, boom, we were hourly. So I had already told everybody, like, I was in communication with everybody while we were closed, and here, how are you guys all doing? And here's our protocol. Here's what we're doing for sanitation. You'll see some changes where we're doing sessions now. We're charging an hourly rate, and that means everyone's head is unique. We are doing something different on every person, and it's gender neutral. And so this allows us to deliver to you an elevated experience. And we looked at basically how much do you want to work over the course of a year, and how much do you want to make at the end of the year, and then back it up from there. Okay, the dollar amount that you want to, how many weeks you want to work and what you want to make at the end of that. Now dial it back. Okay, how much vacation time do you want to take? How many days a week do you want to work? And how many hours in a day do you want to work? And then there's a whole formula that you go through to figure out those numbers. And if it is okay to shoot for the stars, you're just going to need to know that if you are starting out and you want to make 150,000 a year, you might be working 7 days a week, 12-hour days.
Right.
However, if you have done the math and you're like, okay, my hourly rate is maybe a little bit higher than it should be, then you adjust your days and your hours accordingly. Maybe you're not taking a month off work. Maybe you're actually going to take 2 weeks off work. Maybe instead of working 4 days a week, you're going to work 6 days a week. It just really depends on how much you are willing to work.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think that's a really awesome like goal setting exercise too, if you're not quite there yet, because we do have to match up your skill to your hourly as well. So there's a lot of different factors that go in there. So for me, I jumped all in. Like I had already tried to package my services,
Mm-hmm.
but that didn't quite fit because it was putting people in a box that they didn't fit in either. So I had already tried, like, hourly was like the solution. So I was already going away from a la carte, trying to minimize my menu, but I was doing it wrong. I was doing it in packages. And so they had to book a certain package, and those packages had a set time, and that didn't work. So that's why hourly was really great for me. So what I ended up doing to jump in immediately, and I do have my goals that I am trying to like with the formula you mentioned, that is exactly like where I'm headed. And then, but what I did for the more immediate term was I started timing myself, and I started averaging out how many hours in a day I was working, what the money looked like at the end of the day. And that started giving me a really good idea of where I was at. And I was losing a lot of money because I was like slipping in stuff and not charging for it.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening was I averaged that out, and then I looked at like my higher end services, averaged those out, and I priced myself towards those.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave myself a raise because it was time to raise my prices anyway.
Yes.
So I gave myself a raise. 6 months later is when I actually included gratuity and raised my prices again.
Mm-hmm.
So I took an immediate average to see where I was at, gave myself a raise, and then kind of raised it from there. But I also have, like, I want to work less hours as well. I want to, make a certain amount per year. I want to talk about vacations and stuff. Obviously, this year has thrown me completely through a loop. So, that might take me a little bit longer to kind of catch up to get there, because we opened our salon during the first quarantine. We didn't open it. It was ready.
Right.
We built it during the first quarantine. We got shut back down again, and now we just opened again. So we've been open 4 total weeks out of this entire year. So it's been interesting, but that goal is still there. We're still booking out. I'm still gaining more clients, and every single person I talk to really, like, they might be a little confused at first, but then they get in, they experience it. They're like, this is awesome. This is so straightforward. We pre-book them, make a plan, and then they don't have to worry about it so much. But when they're sitting in my chair, we're talking about their hair. We're talking about what we can do in a certain amount of hours. But I always explain that, like, we can make your hair look way more fabulous in just an hour. So it really just, just do something for yourself.
Absolutely.
No one has very many places to go right now. So really offering an experience that's really straightforward, and they know what, they know what to expect. There goes my ADHD a second. They know what to expect. And anyway, so then they can kind of like book according to that, kind of like you would book a massage, or if you're me, book a tattoo or things like that. They charge, tattoo artists charge per hour. Massage therapists charge per hour. And that is an inclusive session. So it is a lot more. It just puts you in a separate category for those. And I just really love it. Once I did it, I will never turn back. So
It's
I was like,
so simplified. It's an elevated experience for your guest, and it is just so simplified for both of you. You don't have all the algebra happening in your head, and your stylist already knows it's already the set amount. I don't have to worry about scrounging around in the bottom of my purse for extra cash to tip because I already know that I'm spending X amount.
um, actually, you sparked something. I'd like to hear about how your consultations changed because mine were so much more simple. I did not have to explain what we were doing, how we were doing it, why they needed it. It was just, how do you want to feel about your hair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Yeah.
like, okay, this will take me this amount of time. My consultations almost shifting my mind around it was like, am I talking enough? These are kind of short. You know?
Yeah. You know, as long as you've heard and repeat back and you're on the same level, then go for it. So it it has made it again simplified because somebody might come in with their goal photo and you look at their hair and you look at where they want to be, and in your head you're like digging for your magician wand because you know that she's going to need a highlight, gray touch up. She also wants to have a little shadow root. We're going to have to gloss. We have to do a haircut. We have to do all this. That timing and the money just went up, up, up. And you're like, okay, now I've got to broach that subject. You know, like
Yeah.
how many hairstylists are like, oh, vomit. I have to tell her it's going to be $50 more, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So with doing hourly, the price is just the price. You have 3 hours booked, your stylist or your client comes in, you know that they need the root touch up, the smudge, the highlights, all the things. They want all the things. You don't have to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to be like, I'm going to be back here formulating and applying and doing all the things. Your dollar amount didn't change.
Yep. Absolutely. It's
So simple.
artistic freedom was really like, that was the sell point for me, is I
Yeah.
have all the freedom to do whatever
Whatever is
I want to
necessary.
do, as long as I can do it within time frame. Or if, you know, if we're talking about I've heard some artists be hesitant because they're like, well, they like to up service. They like to, like, where's the opportunity to upcharge? And I'm like, well,
Okay. You can
you
still
can always you can
add another hour.
yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what that conversation looks like. I'm like, if there is something extra that you want to do beyond what they're booked for, it's like, hey, I would really love to do this to your hair. I understand we are booked for 2.5 hours, but if we do this extra, like, say that they're like, their ends are fried and they're coming to you and you're like, I really need to do a deep treatment, like an Olaplex. We do something different called Crystal Cashmere from In Common, but it's, you know, it's Olaplex for lack of a better, like, just so everybody knows. But anyway, so that's an extra half an hour to an hour, depending on like the treatment. And you're like, that's where you have that conversation. Like, you know, this really
Absolutely.
transform your ends because they're already really damaged. Like, that's the best scenario I can think of in my head, is when you're really trying to upsurface, or like, hey, like, even if it's at a smaller time, it's like, hey, can we take an extra half hour, 20 minutes, whatever it is. We increment in half hour. I know you do an hour, correct? So you guys do the full hour. So we increment in half hours, but we'll talk about that. Having, you know, is it okay if we do an extra 30 minutes today?
Sure.
Or is it okay if we do this take an extra hour in order to achieve these results? And that's
Absolutely.
where that conversation can come. Or say the client just basically didn't even book enough time and you're like, we're going to have to discuss, you know, that this will take a little extra time. Or, you know, in virtual consultations right now, I can't tell the density of their hair very well. So I'll be like, okay, well, I think this will be 2.5, 3 hours. And then they come in, I'm like, yeah, this is going to take a
About
little
that.
more. However, we can do that today, say if I have the extra time, or we can do this in a separate session and this is what I can get you.
Absolutely.
So it's just, there's still freedom and the opportunity as well at the same time in those scenarios. So that's mainly what I wanted to kind of touch on, because I think those are the questions I get. Do you have any other that you get that we didn't quite touch on? Like with,
I don't think so.
I think with extensions, there's one where they want to charge a separate rate for extension services. So do you charge an hourly for color, cutting, and those services, and a separate hourly for extension services?
I do. And I know that with stylists who have gone to these hourly sessions, that some have just kept their hourly rate the same, and some have an hourly rate for all the things, but separate for extensions. And I did do separate for extensions. That one was hard for me because extensions are priced so much higher than anything else. So I do have a separate price point for extensions. It's still hourly, but it's at a little bit higher of an hourly rate than my other salon services. And there are times where I have clients who are doing combo sessions. I definitely have clients who come in and have a color service and we do extensions, and I just have them paired up as a combo service, and I've figured out, like, okay, we're doing 4 hours worth of work, 6 hours worth of work. Some of that was extensions, some of that was color. And so those two different price points are then added together based on whatever the timing is. What about you? You have yours all?
Mine are the same, but I've been thinking about talking to our coach about doing it separate. And the way I formulate, the way I do extension sessions anyway, because they're so long and we need a break, is I'll do the color session first. We take a break, we eat, I order them food at either one of the restaurants close by, so they can like go eat, and then I go eat, or we sometimes go to lunch together. But either way, I'm out of the salon and like brushing off the the thoughts, the brain, I need a break in between. We'll do a 2 hour, maybe 3 hour, depending on what they need. Their color session, take a break, and then we move into the extension session. So it's actually quite, easy to transition. It's never extensions, color all at once, because I do them completely. I do extensions after, and I know some people do extensions and then color over them, but I don't. So even if I am coloring the extensions themselves, that's part of the extension service. That's not part of their hair color service. So I am definitely thinking about that. So sorry. Sorry. Clients typically aren't watching these, so it'll be okay. But but either way, I digress. Like, that's okay, because they want us to be successful too. Especially, I think we have their full support after this year. We're important. We're essential.
We are.
Well, thank you so much. I think we covered a lot of really good bases and answered a lot of questions. And if anyone has any more questions, of course, we're students of Destroy the Hairdresser. You can obviously go there and take some classes on their line. Absolutely. I have a link in my bio for their classes individually, and you as well. And then of course us ourselves. What's your Instagram handles? I'm an Instagrammer more than.
It is at wash.salon would be our salon handle. And then my personal is at salon.doll. So we've got Wash Salon and Salon Doll. And like Jackie at Lifted, we are also hiring. So if you're a stylist and you're in Illinois, or you want to move to Illinois, we are hiring. Come check us out.
Just kidding. I have never been to the East Coast ever in my life. So
I mean, we're
anything.
We have no coast. We're in the middle of the world.
Well, middle, yeah, Chicago over there. I've been up and down the West Coast. I've never been east of California, really. But anyway, that just exposed my horrible geography that I have. So, I'm an artist. Anyway, yeah, and you can of course find me at lifted.salon or jackie.liftedbeauty. So thank you so much. I am going to has this recording. And anybody who needs anything from us, please reach out. We're totally open.
Absolutely. We're here for you.
Hey, thank you.